Okay, welcome to this presentation. We are looking at AC 2.2, and AC 2.2 deals with individualistic theories of crime and criminality. I'll explain what individualistic theories are in my next slide. And in particular, we're going to look at the psychodynamic theory of Freud, and then right towards the end, we're going to evaluate Freud's psychodynamic theory, its strengths and its weaknesses. So, let's start with a general introduction to individualistic theories and in particular psychodynamic theories. So, an individualistic theory of crime holds that crime is caused by individual differences based on someone's personality type or the experience that people have had within their lives. So, individualistic proponents of the individualistic theory of criminality argue that the root of crime is your individual makeup or the development processes that you've experienced within your life. It's your makeup, your development, childhood, etc. that causes you to be a criminal. So, as I said, we're going to look at psychodynamic theories, which see our personality as containing active forces that cause us to act as we do. So these forces are powerful urges, feelings and conflicts within our unconscious mind. So they would argue that criminal behaviour is a result of an individual's failure to resolve these inner conflicts in a socially acceptable way. So here we go. Sigmund Freud, the father of psychoanalysis, 1856 to 1939. Let's just a little introduction on Sigmund Freud. He was the founder of psychoanalysis, and according to Freud, our early childhood experiences determine our personality and our future behaviour. His famous quote is, "The child is the father to the man." So in other words, what you experience in childhood informs how you are as an adult. So Freud believed that our early experiences determine whether we will go on to act in antisocial ways. So let's look at Freud's key ideas. So Freud believed that all human beings have criminal tendencies. We've all got them, they're latent, they're within us, there's nothing we can do about it. However, most people develop some form of inner control that helps us to suppress these criminal tendencies and so they don't manifest themselves. Freud believed that it was your early childhood experiences that influenced your likelihood to commit crime. So it was your childhood that enabled you to develop these inner controls to stop your criminal tendencies. If your childhood in some way was affected, then you didn't have the way of suppressing the criminal tendencies. So it's all down to what you were as a child. This quote here sort of links how important Freud thought childhood was. In many criminals, especially youthful ones, it's possible to detect a very powerful sense of guilt which existed before the crime and is therefore not its result but its motive. It's as if it was a relief to be able to fasten this unconscious sense of guilt onto something real and immediate. So Freud believed there were three parts to each person's personality, psyche, the Greek word for soul, psyche. Three parts, a tripartite view. There's the id, the ego, and the superego. And we're going to look at these, as I said, in more detail. And your criminal behaviour is a result of abnormal development of this psyche. You've got an unhealthy psyche if you've developed criminal behaviour because your childhood hasn't been healthy. So since the structure for Freud of the psyche is determined in the first 5 years of life, it therefore logically follows that the roots of offending are to be found in this period, especially the relationship between the developing child and its parents. So let's have a look at the psyche. So the psyche, as I said, is tripartite, consists of three parts: the id, which is to do with instincts, the ego, which is reality, and the superego, morality. So id, ego, superego. So let's have a look at these in more detail. Let's start with the id. Now, the id is present from birth up to 18 months. Freud called it the pleasure principle, and it's that childlike, selfish, animalistic part of your personality that wants instant gratification of its needs. It's that rather unpleasant part of you that you wouldn't want people to know about yourself. It's that animalistic bit inside you. So it reflects those basic innate drives that all humans have: pleasure-seeking behaviour, aggression, sexual impulses. So it's often portrayed as like the devil on your shoulder, that nasty little voice in your ear telling you to do bad things. It's those unconscious drives and instincts. And if we acted on these urges whenever we felt them, they would lead us into antisocial and criminal behaviour. If we then move towards the superego, that develops between the age of 3 and 6. It's the role of our conscience, which is why I've got Jiminy Cricket up here, who acted as Pinocchio's conscience because he didn't have one. It's learnt through interactions with our parents during early socialisation within the family. For instance, we may be punished for trying to satisfy our urges without regards for others. One of the first things that parents are trying to teach children: say please, say thank you, share. It's all about suppressing those unpleasant urges, which me, I want, which come as socialisation. As we socialise, we repress those urges. So it sort of provides our moral standards. So whereas the id is the devil on your shoulder, the superego is the angel on your shoulder. And the superego feels guilt and holds someone back from behaving in a certain way if it's thought to be wrong. It's that conscience part of you, stops you from behaving badly. And it internalises the rules that are passed down from our parents. It internalises the rules as we become socialised. And if we go against our superego, it punishes us by making us feel guilty and anxious. And the last part of our personality is the ego. And that develops between 18 months and 3 years, so between the id and the superego. And that's really called the reality principle, learning from experience that in the real world, our actions have consequences. The role of the ego is to strike a balance between the demands of the id and the constraints imposed by the superego. So in a well-adjusted person, the ego acts in a way that satisfies the id's desires, but is also morally acceptable to the ego, to the superego. So for example, here you've got the id saying, I want to do that now, and the superego going, well, it's not right to do that. And the ego in the middle going, well, maybe we can compromise. So the ego really, as we see in this illustration, is acting as a balance between the id and the superego. And if you want some more information on this, very good link to a video here on YouTube about all of this. Again, if you're watching this on my channel, you just have to pause and copy the link down. If you're watching it on my normal PowerPoint at school, just click on the link and you'll be fine. So, if you've got a healthy psyche, it's going to look something like this. You've got the ego saying, okay guys, I'm in charge, anything you want has to go through me, and your id's going, oh, okay, and your superego is going, okay. And I put this up here because Freud believed that a lot of the mind is hidden, so it's like an iceberg. We see bits of the ego and bits of the superego above the water. It's what we show to other people. And that's our conscious mind. But in our unconscious mind, we've got other bits of the ego, lots of the superego, and of course the id hidden deep below. So you've got your id, which is like a child going, I want, I need, satisfy me. you've got the superego going, you can't, you must not, it's not allowed. And then you've got the ego in the middle. So your id's the child, your superego is acting like a parent, and your ego is the rounded adult with the rounded psyche. So the id is your innate desire, your pleasure-seeking aggression, sexual impulse, whereas your ego is your superego is your moral, ethical values, your parental values, and then your mature adaptive behaviour is demonstrated in the ego. Lots of different diagrams to do it, to show it in different ways. So, how does all this link to crime? Well, psychoanalytical theories see antisocial behaviour as caused by an abnormal relationship with parents during early socialisation. For example, a child may be neglected, or parents may be excessively lax or excessively strict. And this can result in either a weak or an over-harsh or deviant superego. So if you have a weakly developed superego, that means the individual will feel less guilt about antisocial action and less inhibition about acting on the id's urges. So if you've got a weak superego, as we've got down here, you've got the id going, right, give me food now, then let's have some fun, find some drink and drugs and sex, I don't care how you get it. And the weak superego is going, sorry, it's wrong, sorry, it's wrong. And it can't be heard, and then the ego goes, okay, and off we go. So, if you've got a too harsh and unforgiving superego, that would create deep-seated guilt feelings in the individual, who then craves punishment as relief from these feelings. That person with a too harsh or unforgiving superego may engage in compulsive repeat offending, recidivism, in order to be punished. So it looks a little bit like this, you know, you've got the overdeveloped superego going, listen up, I'm in charge, you're not here to enjoy yourselves, get ready for a double-sized portion of anxiety with a side order of guilt. The id's going, no fun, and the ego's just going, whimper. So that's how a too harsh or unforgiving superego might manifest itself. If we look at a deviant superego, that's one where the child is successfully socialised, but into a deviant moral code. So your son may have a perfectly good relationship with his criminal father, and so as a result of that good relationship with the criminal father, the son internalises his father's criminal values. So as a result, his superego won't inflict guilt feelings on him for contemplating criminal acts. So it'll look something like this. The id's going, I'm hungry, get some food. And the ego's going, well, we're skint guys, but I could always rob someone. And superego goes, well, okay by me, because it's been internalized, the father's criminality. And finally, we would have the psychopath, where you might notice there's no superego at all. You've just got the id going, okay, give me food, then I want sex, lots of it, I don't particularly care whether it's with a willing partner, then I want to hurt people badly, probably be hungry again after that, so, and then the ego just goes, okay then, let's go, because there's no control there whatsoever. So hopefully that's explained Freud's theory of how lack of an incorrectly developed psyche leads to criminality. Let's look at the strengths and weaknesses of his theory. So firstly, strengths, well, it's an important consideration of emotion. So the psychodynamic approach is the only explanation for offending behaviour that deals with the role of emotional factors. So it includes how anxiety and feelings of rejection may contribute to offending behaviour, and there's a certain element of truth in that. And secondly, it recognises the importance of childhood experiences. It recognises how important early childhood experiences are in moulding adult personalities. And this aspect of his theory has led to much research into crime and deviance as a result of this. So there's definitely some truth in this. So moving on to our final slide, looking at the weaknesses of Freud's theory, the first thing you can say is, well, critics doubt the existence of an unconscious mind. How can you possibly prove that the unconscious mind exists if it's unconscious? So Freud's theory falls upon itself because it is technically impossible to prove whether it's right or wrong. And secondly and finally, psychoanalytic explanations are basically unscientific and extremely subjective. Why is this? It's because they rely on the psychoanalyst claims, Freud's claims, that they can see the workings of the individual's unconscious mind and they can discover the inner conflicts and motivations. Well, where's the proof of that? It's completely subjective and once again cannot be proven one way or the other. So therein the problem lies. I hope you found this interesting and I'll see you soon for my next presentation.